All right, so can everybody hear me right now? Just want to make sure that before we get started. Can you put in the chat if you can hear me right now? All right, so I see one person put in that they can hear me. All right, that's good. So, hello everyone. I'm not sure how many of you have seen my face before. I don't normally show my face in videos, but I thought it worked for something like this. I'm wearing a Grand Teton shirt, but I can't really be seen right now. I can try to hold up, but this is the Q&A live stream. So thank you all for 5,000 subscribers, first of all. Honestly, it's amazing that we got to that number. I mean, May on has been a fantastic, I guess, Chase Ferguson. So face reveal, technically, there has been one or two other times where I showed it, but it hasn't really been a whole lot. So this Q&A live stream, I just thought it'd be a good way to do this because I haven't really been thinking about a 5,000 subscriber special. I've missed basically every other milestone. My top 50 parks made it for 3,000. But for this live stream, you can ask any question you want about national parks, other travels, YouTube videos I've made, or maybe at the end of the stream, which will be somewhere from half hour to hour, I will say something about future videos most likely. But if you want to start with any questions you have, you may do so. And hello everyone to everyone who's in. So I'll say Chase Ferguson, the Human's Pet, Doppler, Smarvin 6689, Albert Zhang. All right, so did you visit Mont Orford National Park? Yes, actually I did. It was for a brief period on the way to Acadia after spending time in Montreal, beautiful city by the way. I enjoyed the park for sure. I have to think about how many Canadian parks I've been to. And also Jason Myers 11, if I remember correctly, you wanted me to rank Canadian parks. I have not done that, but I could give you that ranking or similarly right now if you wanted, if I started writing stuff down. All right, so thinking going to Voyageurs National Park. Any tips or recommendations? Yes, so Fantasy 1 Fan 93. My main advice is to make sure you spend time on the water. That is the best experience you'll have at Voyageurs. Whether you go canoeing, go on a boat tour with the National Park Service, or do the houseboat, I think it is the best way to do it because being on the water, you'll get to see bald eagles often, and you will not be with the ticks because I found that ticks were a pretty major issue when I went on some of the trails. I had looked into it, and yeah, it seemed like there would be some, and obviously I always know there are ticks, but I just don't think it's really the best part of Voyageurs. All right, so ever been to Wisconsin? Yes, but very briefly. I've not been to Apostle Islands, but it's a very beautiful place from what I hear. So Albert Zhang going to DC, have around a week. Should you go to New River and Shenandoah? Yes, I think that would be fun. I honestly think I would struggle to fill a week at DC personally. So being able to spend extra time at New River Gorge and Shenandoah would definitely be excellent. All right, so will you visit Australian national parks? I have already actually been to a couple Australian national parks. I once made a video about my favorite national parks outside of the US. And my favorite is Great Barrier Reef if it counts. Otherwise, probably Uluru. All right, thank you, Sporty Dan 11. All right, Doppler, have you went to the rainforest in Canada? I've heard of it, but I have not been there. Sounds excellent. All right, the Human's Pet. Is it safe to camp in a national park like Yellowstone? Yes, it is. In many cases, there's designated campgrounds at a national park, and typically you won't have any run-ins with animals as long as you store your food properly. And there are some wonderful campgrounds out there. I've done it in Cottonwood. Theodore Roosevelt is my favorite. Okay. All right, Smarvin6689. So I hope you have fun at Voyageurs as well. All right, so Elk Island and Prince Albert Island National Park. Okay, I've not been to Prince Albert Island National Park, but I've been to Elk Island, and Elk Island is actually a very underrated one for me. I went in winter, and the main thing that stood out was the lake being frozen, but I also love the Dyson. All right, so Eric Forrest, how do new national parks get named? So come back with me whether you mean how does a park get designated or how do they choose the name for a park? Okay, so opinion of Grand Canyon of Is that Prince Albert as a national park? I don't really know much about that. All right. Spinlock. What's a national park that didn't make a big impression on you that you'd like to give a second chance? There are a couple. So, I personally think North Cascades has to be the number one of them all. It seems like it could be one of my absolute favorites, but I spent very little time there, and I'm fully transparent about that. I've not really seen much of it. Okay, so Grand Canyon, Pennsylvania. I don't know much about that, Jason Myers. I might look into that. All right, so Eric Forest. It kind of goes through a process of either Congress approving it, or in some cases, the president can sign it in as an executive order, just choosing it to be a national park. If I'm not mistaken, a lot of the most recent ones were executive orders, but the National Park Service gets constant recommendations on what it should be next. All right, so Smarvin6689, do you watch other national park content on YouTube? Yes, I do. I think my favorite channel is probably America's Parks. I know most national park YouTubers, they film in the park, it's on location, and that kind of content's fun. Mine's very different because I don't do that sort of combination of vlog style. It's just that I'm much more of a commentary YouTuber, but I do enjoy watching the other type. Okay, so ever plan on going back to North Cascades again? I would love to. I don't have the plan personally. Like, I haven't really thought about it, but maybe in the future I will go. I would definitely love to. All right, so will I live stream often or occasionally? I don't know if I'm going to do this very often again, but if people enjoy this and it's successful, then maybe I will. So Albert Zhang, do you think it is worth it to go to Washington and Oregon or see the parks in California? If the flight is fairly affordable and it's not like a major issue, then you absolutely should, because I think places such as Yosemite, Mount Rainier, Olympic, Lassen Volcanic, Death Valley, Channel Islands, all wonderful. Some of my favorite national parks are in the west, like the very west area of the US. So did I go to any national parks in Mexico? No, I've spent very little time in Mexico at all. All right, so Evan LaRusso, what do you think about Gateway Arch? Now, funny thing, of all the national parks, Gateway Arch is the one I've been to most recently. I went there during a road trip. It wasn't really made for national parks, but I just happened to be in the St. Louis area, so we went there. And it is my least favorite national park in terms of natural scenery and all. I enjoy my time there. I like the museum, and the arch is nice to look at, but compared to other national parks, maybe it's just kind of a sort of metric that I play in my head without ever really thinking about it. I just don't think it's really worthy of park status. It's a nice place to go, but I think if it were a national memorial like it used to be, then it could be one of the better ones even, because it really does work well for that purpose. But honestly, it is a little bit, I would say, insulting that there are wonderful places that do deserve the status and the respect, but they decided to make Gateway Arch a park. Okay, Thousand Islands National Park. That's a cool idea. And it seems everyone agrees with the idea that Gateway Arch is not really worthy. All right, so how long would you need in California? It depends. If you want to see every national park, I would recommend probably somewhere from, if you want to either spend a lot of time in individual parks, I don't know. So the way I'll put it, if you can do everything in one day in each park, that does take a lot of time planning, and it will be pretty tough days, but you will get to experience a lot of the park and won't have to spend too much time on the trip. I think you need 10 days at least, excluding what it would take to get there with flights and all. And if you were to spend a lot of time in each park, I think you would need at the least 2.5 weeks. What's more worth it, California or Washington and Oregon? If you love mountain scenery, you will get more out of a trip to Washington and Oregon, I think. But if you want that diversity, I would go with California. All right, so Vier, what do you think of Banff? Banff is my favorite national park in Canada. And among U.S. national parks, I think it could rank definitely top 10, maybe very high up in the top 10. Beautiful mountains, waterfalls, glaciers, so much to enjoy. I know it's somewhat popular and crowded, but that doesn't get to me much. All right, so something in the Ozarks. Yes, Ozarks would be better for Missouri National Park for sure. So, Wells, what national park should you prioritize? Okay, so if you're thinking about of all of them, I guess it could depend on your taste, but for me, if you could only go to 5 national parks and you really want to experience as much of America as possible, I would say Yellowstone is a must. The Grand Canyon is definitely one. Great Smoky Mountains for the eastern part, probably one of the parks in Washington. No, actually, no. Glacier would be the fourth, and then the fifth. Thinking about what I've said so far, probably Redwood. So, which parks have the easiest hikes? So, most parks do have a lot of accessible hikes, but Yellowstone has a abundance of very nice trails that are just boardwalks. Congaree's boardwalk is pretty easy. Grand Canyon walking around is not bad. Bryce Canyon has some. Arches is plenty of easy hikes. But if you look into hikes at most parks, you'll see that there's quite a few that are under a mile, little elevation gain, not too bad for most. How long would you say it is needed for a trip to Hawaii? So you would have to go to 2 different islands. So I think if you want to see both of the national parks and all, and just those 2 islands, you would need at least 4 or 5 days plus flying and all. All right. So what do you think about American Prairie Reserve become a national park? Let me look that up. I don't know much about the American Prairie Reserve preserve, honestly. Let's see the Prairie Reserve. So if it is a prairie type thing like grasslands and all, and you have bison and all, okay. So where is this? Montana. I think that would be good, though it seems unlikely because Montana has a national park in their state, and it seems they want to get new parks in new states that don't have one. But I do like the idea. So what else? How do you? Oh, sorry, that was already in there. Will you work at the National Park Service? I don't know. Maybe one day. So this may seem silly, but how many employees are in the National Park Service? I have no idea, but I can look that up right now. So this says approximately 20,000. All right. So which ones haven't I been to? I would say so. The only national park is American Samoa. There are a lot of national park sites I've not gone to though. All right, Albert Zhang, you went to Grand Teton, Yellowstone, Arches, and Canyonlands. All excellent. That's very nice. Have I ever wanted to work and live in a national park for a season? Part of me's thought of it, and while I do love national parks, I think I do have different plans for the future, and I would not do that. All right, most disgusting park I've been to, most tourists, Great Smoky Mountains. Maybe my experience was unlucky. It was one that we were going to on the way to visiting family, but I do remember fondly that it was the most crowded. Now, when I say disgusting, it's not like it was gross or anything, but it was the one with most tourists, which is also a part of your question. All right. Any more questions? So I do like all these questions so far. If you have anything you want to wonder about, for example, too close. Oh, close for comfort wildlife moments. That's a very good question. So I feel I've gotten pretty close and honestly a bit too close, but usually it's not my fault because I'm just on a hike and then we find it. So there are two that stand out to me. Isle Royal, there was a bull moose on a trail, and I will tell you, if you get fairly close to a bear and close to a moose, there's a good chance the moose will scare you more. They are massive, and the antlers, honestly, I was quite afraid during that. Then another that stands out was wolves at Lake Clark. This is one of my favorite experiences. We were walking through an unmaintained area with a guide looking for bears, and I looked to the right and there's a wolf. And then there's one other that I guess I should mention. Very fun one. We're on a trail in Pinnacles National Park. A snake goes along the trail. My dad didn't see it, so he had to do a quick hop and barely got out of the way. After that, my brother was looking for snakes the whole time, and he found some in holes, and he was pretty paranoid about it. All right, so cave parks worth it? Yes, I would say especially Carlsbad Caverns, best cave by far. Everyone says otherwise. I'm shocked, but they are entitled to their opinion. What else do we have? Parks that underwhelmed. Well, there aren't a whole lot that underwhelm because I relatively know what to expect in them. I guess. Hmm. There are definitely parks that I think are overrated to an extent, but really, I guess the most underwhelming, as weird as it might sound, is Arches. Arches is in my top 20 parks and I love it. But when I hear many say it's top five, I don't think it's quite that high up for me. Should Upper Missouri River Breaks National Monument become a park? I like that idea. I think that would be a pretty good pick, actually. Okay. What has the best wildlife? There are a lot of great parks with diverse wildlife, and Yellowstone would be my top pick. It has the bison, grizzly bears, black bears, you have wolves, coyotes, you have moose, deer, antelope, bald eagles. There's a lot more. I loved when I say antelope, I mean pronghorn antelope, by the way. But wildlife in Yellowstone is abundant and some of my favorite. So should Baxter State Park in Maine be one? Yeah, I think another Maine national park would be excellent. All right, so how many national parks would be too many? It's hard to think about. If at a certain point national park title means it becomes super popular and like it's kind of upsetting, then I would honestly say right now is too many if all of them ended up like that. But I feel like national park status doesn't necessarily boost tourism for all of them. So I'm not sure if there really is a set limit I have. That would be too many. All right, Doppler, do you think New York or New England needs another national park? I don't think they need it, but I think it would be good if they had one. All right, who do you go to parks with, friends or family? I go with my family always. It's either my two parents and three siblings, or it'll just be my brother and my dad. Will I check out state parks? I've been to a couple state parks, but it honestly just depends on where I am and whether I'm familiar with it. All right. How big an area do you think a national park should be? Though I wouldn't really say there's a set area there should be. I think Gateway Arch is too small to be like a full-fledged national park. And I think bigger than Hot Springs is basically the limit. So there's like 5,500 acres. So do you rate the Everglades? So for the Everglades, that's my home national park essentially. And maybe a bit too close to home for me. So while I do love seeing alligators and the other wildlife at the park, most of the scenery and wildlife is fairly familiar to me because of where I live. So while I do love the park for sure, it's fairly low down on my list compared to the more impressive, unique scenery to me. So what else do we have? What was it? Okay. Is it true that Bigfoot actually lives in Yellowstone? Not a question. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have read that before, finding out if it was a question or not, but I don't think he does. Okay. Favorite Colorado park? Rocky Mountain is my favorite, but all four are excellent. Black Canyon's underrated. Great Sanders is underrated. Mesa Verde's fun. So I like all of those. So worst weather experience? I've gotten lucky in most, but there's been Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier would be my unluckiest because it was definitely cloudy and rainy at points, meaning I never got to see the peak when I was in the park. I've seen it from outside, but no. Opinion of Mount Washington as a national park. So, New Hampshire, if I'm not mistaken, I think that sounds like an excellent area to be, and for the winter activities as well. Did I go to Okefenokee Swamp? No. Have I ever been to Canadian national parks? Yes, I have. My favorites are Banff, Jasper, and Elk Island, but I've been to quite a few. Um, should Mount St. Helens become a national park? So I think the answer for this is definitely yes. I don't know if there's any activity they allow there, such as hunting, that would mean people would complain if it were taken out because of national park status, but it seems excellent. Have you ever summited any 14ers? I don't think so. I'd have to think about what's the highest I've gone. Honestly, I've done some mountain hikes, but I don't know if any of them are that tall. I'm just going to quickly look up elevations of a few I've done and see how high up it was. Um, I don't think I have. I've climbed a few pretty challenging mountains to get on, but not really. All right. You going to come back to Rainier North Cascades? All right, Bonnie Johnson. I would love to. I will one day, I'm sure, but I don't know if I have plans to. I really want to, but I just don't know if I will. Um, have you ever been yelled at by a ranger? Um, yeah, I guess at Petrified Forest, we were told to get out of the park because it was after hours because they closed at like 6 p.m. So we weren't yelled at, but we were told to leave. That's the closest I had. What's the funniest thing I saw someone do in a national park? Most funny things I see are things that I don't find funny and are just really mean, honestly, like feeding squirrels, but specifically feeding them plastic bags. That but funny thing a person did. I'm not sure. So, did I encounter any Asian hornets in Washington parks? No, I didn't go very recently. All right, longest hike I've done. I believe it was probably Bright Angel Trail that's Plateau Point, but I'm not certain. Wait, it may have been the Highline Trail in Glacier. I think that was probably longer. So it's either that, Bright Angel, or Tenallia Mountain in Lake Clark. I've done fairly long day hikes, take a long time, but I don't have a ton of backpacking experiences, though Highline was backpacking. All right. Have I been to Northeast Greenland National Park or want to go? I would love to go there. That sounds beautiful, but I have not been to Greenland. What season or months do you recommend for visiting national parks in the South, like New Mexico and Texas? I think the best time to go to those is probably May or June if you can. It's not too unbearably hot per se, but it is not extremely crowded and you won't have to worry about certain things. I think that's the best. I should consider doing live streams in case viewers have more questions. I might do so. Thank you. Okay, so was Niagara Falls an area they grew early in our country, now with cheap commercial sites, a motivating factor in establishing the MPS to protect others? I've not thought about that, though I think that could possibly be it. All right. Albert Zhang, worst transportation experience on the way to a park? I believe there was a time where there was some issue with. No, I can't really think of a major one. I guess there have been times where the road is just really bumpy on the way there, like in some of the Alaska parks, but it's not that major. All right. Which state parks should become national parks? Despite the bison roundup, I would love to see Custer become a national park. And there are quite a few others out there, but I haven't really thought about them. Have I ever been to Asia? I've been to Japan. All right. Are the parks in Alaska worth the travel? Absolutely. Alaska's parks are pretty much the best of the best. Denali, Lake Clark, and Katmai are all in my top 5, and the other 5 are wonderful as well. I know it's quite difficult to get to them, but they are phenomenal. So what else? Should Chimney Rock become a national park? I don't know about that. It's a nice site, but I think its current status is definitely good. Do you think we should rewild the UK? I'm not sure what UK's national park system or anything like that looks like right now, but maybe. All right, so thank you for all the questions so far. All right, Chimney Rock, Nebraska, North Carolina. I believe they mean Nebraska. That's my guess. All right. Thoughts on Delaware Water Gap potentially being a park? I think it's one of the absolute top contenders for the next national park. Seems likely. It's good for the area it's in. Beautiful. I think it definitely makes sense. Though I do stand by Craters of the Moon as the most likely as my personal choice. So these have been all been good questions so far. If you have any more questions about specific experiences, maybe ones I haven't talked about, thoughts on specific parks you haven't seen videos on. Oh, Travel Dash popping in. All right. Hey, Mark, if you're all right with me calling you Mark on this. So after watching a video about parks that should be promoted, I think Anza Borrego. Yes, I've heard about that one, though I have not been. All right. Have you ever been to Land Between the Lakes? No, I have not. But thanks for popping in, Mark. It's really great to see you here. Subscribe to Travel Dash, by the way, everyone. Another good channel, done a lot of California park videos so far. All right, what do I value more? Scenery, wildlife, accessibility, or amenities? Allow me to rank those things quickly. The least important is accessibility, by far. Because while it is something that might affect you getting to the park, it should not affect your overall thoughts on the park. For example, if I lived in Washington, I would not dock Everglades because of how long the flight was to get there. And then the third most important would definitely be the amenities because while they, I guess, can somewhat influence the experience, they don't matter as much as scenery and wildlife. Wildlife is next. I think I prioritize it more than others. And actually, one person once was surprised that I prioritize wildlife so much. But honestly, when people go to Yellowstone just to photograph wolves, I think that shows that people love wildlife. There's something special about being right there with the animals. And scenery is most important. I love wildlife, but scenery takes number one. And also, if by amenities you meant like activities, like hikes and all, that would probably be second over wildlife and by a tiny bit. How many NPS sites have I been to? I don't know for sure, but maybe my junior ranger badges, I could quickly count them, but I'm not sure. If you want me to do that, I will. But all right, what was my favorite hike? Oh, there's been a lot of excellent hikes I've done, but I think my favorite is probably Highline Trail and Glacier. All right, Swiss content coming soon. I'm very excited for that travel dash. All right, do I prefer deserts, mountains, or coastline? Mountains for sure. Now, I'm gonna put a quick poll up, just keep things lively in the chat. Let me think. What could I ask? Oh, I got four options. All right, we'll change it to oh, mountain or desert poll. Good idea. I'll do that quickly. All right. So, what about the sagebrush ecosystem? I don't know much about that one, honestly. Do you do the park passport stamps? You know, I've had the passport for a long time, but I never really think about getting the stamps because for me, maybe I don't think that much about I need to prove that I've been here and the experience is enough for me. Longest hike I've done, I mentioned earlier, it's probably Bright Angel Trail to Plateau Point or Highline Trail and Glacier, maybe. Mountains or desert pools. All right, others wanted that. Is Mammoth Cave worth a visit? Yes, and actually October is when I went, so I think it's a good time to go. There's a lot of good ones out there. The tours, I would say, if you're up for Wild Cave, do it. I don't think I can handle that personally, but otherwise, Violet City Lantern if you can get it. Other than that, the Frozen Niagara tour is pretty easy to get and still very nice. And Mammoth Cave is one of my favorites in the East. All right, so what's the wildest thing I've seen while on travels? Hmm. There's been quite a few interesting wilderness type experiences, but I'm thinking it was probably just the wolves howling while I was in Lake Clark. Favorite national park in Washington? I lean toward Olympic for having the mountains, the forest, and the beaches all beautiful. Mountain region is my favorite. All right, what music genre do I listen to on long drives? You know, a funny story about that is I find every time we're on a trip, we will hear the same songs multiple times. And there's always one trip we decide is the theme song, sort of. But it's never something that's popular right now. For example, I think one of our trips, we always ended up hearing on the radio. Man, it was back in 2019. I think "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" was constantly on the radio for whatever reason. I did think, what else was there? Um, I think 500 Miles or I Want to Be by the Proclaimers was, and that's a very fun one. All right, so favorite desert in the US? Hmm. I don't know if there's one specific one that I think is the best. They're all beautiful. Mojave does stand out as being the most prominent one for what I know about, but that's what I would say. Okay. Park with worst wildlife. The one you'll see the least in is Gateway Arch, no doubt. All right. Were there any parks or experiences I was scared to do? I was not afraid to go to any individual parks, but I was definitely afraid of Tenalea Mountain hike, the peak part, because of just how narrow and loose the rock ridge was. All right, Congaree National Park opinion. Great question. Underrated. It's not a masterpiece of scenery by any means, but I love it. I think the boardwalk hike is great. It's quiet. There's a lot of wildlife, and it's just a nice walk in the woods, even though it's not the most breathtaking. Does Flaming Gorge National Recreation Area deserve park status? Well, it is beautiful, not before Dinosaur. Dinosaur National Monument deserves park status for sure. All right, East coastline or West coastline? I would say probably the West. I do like the rockiness of some of the areas like Redwood. Though Acadia has some beautiful coastline for sure. All right. What did I major in college? I'm not in college yet. Favorite domestic airline? Ooh, very tough. Uh, of ones I've done domestically, probably JetBlue, honestly. I've had some experiences I don't love with others. What would you say is the best looking lake I've seen? Crater Lake is the most beautiful. There's a lot of I enjoy, but Crater Lake puts them all to shame. All right. Does Missy Fjords National Monument deserve park status? Yes, probably. All right. So someone said travel that should be visit Mammoth Cave. Make sure you go to the Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area and Fort Donaldson. Yeah, those are good. All right. Do I like airplane food? It's fine. I don't dislike like most foods, and I'll eat things because I realize food is food and I should not complain. So I don't dislike it. All right, top 3 airlines. Okay, so Air New Zealand is the best I've done, no doubt. I would say next best is probably JetBlue. And there was one I've done. I think Air Canada was pretty good, actually. I was not a fan of things like United, and I'm honestly trying to get rid of United stuff. All right, McNerd, favorite Utah park. That would be Zion. And on that note, maybe I'll put another poll up. Also, I see Mountain is winning for sure, but I'm going to quickly put another poll about. By the way, there will be a video tomorrow. It's going to be another reaction to a list. It's by the More Than Just Parks guys. They're two brothers that have been to every national park, and it was a pretty fun list to react to, give thoughts on. But I'm just going to quickly put this out as I end this poll. So congratulations, Mountains, you win. All right, so what else we got? Quite a few went out. All right, favorite Utah park is Zion, as I think I mentioned. When is the best time to visit Congaree? So if you want to do the canoeing or kayaking, I think you probably want to go in fall, like October time. But I loved it when I went in December. All right, favorite local food at a park? Gee, I don't think about the food in national parks much, but if we're yeah, I'm not really sure if I know for that one. Have I been to Pine Savannah before? I have not. Opinion on Acadia and the wildlife. Acadia is beautiful. My favorite park in the east. I like the mix of the forested mountains, the rocky coastline, the sand beaches. It's a very unique one, and there's something special about the sky there. I just really enjoyed it. The wildlife, not the most prominent. You'll see deer, and because I live in Florida, I don't see deer very often. So deer are pretty special wildlife for me, unlike for I'm sure most of you. And so people are voting yes so far. So let me think. There's a lot of bird life, so you'll enjoy that. I remember climbing Beehive Trail and being pretty much at level with a falcon. So what else do we have? Best national park outside the U.S. Galapagos National Park. Rudis Taurus at National Park. I had a run-in with Acadia, actually. I would not say as a whole the Taurus or Rudis, but the Rudis Taurus I did have any encounter with were at Acadia because, man, there was like a party of 4 who yelled at us after they were, what I'll say is jaywalking. We're driving on the main road, not the parking lot, and they walk in front and then they stop walking and they're laughing. I don't know. That was just a somewhat, all right, goodbye, Albert Zhang, somewhat unfortunate experience. All right. Favorite Kanye song? I don't listen to Kanye. All right. What countries have you seen natural beauty in outside of the U.S.? The most prominent would be Australia, Canada, Ecuador, Peru, Iceland, Norway, and Japan. I'm not sure if there's any other with natural scenery. I've been to a couple other parks, and Mexico, and a couple Caribbean ones for like snorkeling and such. All right, deserts aren't barren wasteland. Correct, Doppler. All right, Pembo 0360. Sorry, 06330. Thank you very much. I'm happy you enjoy the content and the channel. Ever heard of Castle Rock? Yes, I have. but I don't know much about them. Will I visit Patagonia? Oh, I would love to. Ever think about going back to Gates of the Arctic or Quebec Valley? It would be very nice to spend a lot of time in them as opposed to just doing the flight seeing, but I'm just not sure how feasible it is. They would be nice, but if I had to, I might do Gates of the Arctic. I don't know about Quebec Valley. Okay. So, favorite snack for hiking? I guess it varies quite a bit, but honestly, my family normally brings beef jerky. Um, Honest thoughts on Lassen. 11 hours away. Okay, so Grizzy Oz. I will tell you honestly, Lassen is one of my favorite national parks in California. Probably number 4 out of the 9 excellent ones. It's in my top 20 parks overall. Lassen Peak is one of the best hikes, and the Geyser Basin one there is wonderful. Manzanita Lake is great. The scenic drive is wonderful. I like the wildlife. It has excellent scenery. It's overall an underrated one. If you do go, Lassen Peak is a must. If you can do only one hike, that's the one. It's not as strenuous as you might think. All right. Have I been to a national park that's not actually a national park? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but I guess Great Barrier Reef kind of seems like a national park, but it's a marine park. All right, what's an experience or site you missed out on you would go back for? Ooh, I go back to a lot, but probably Sourdough Mountain at North Cascades is a standout. St. Mary Lake at Glacier National Park. I've never gotten to that part of Glacier because the road is always closed when I go in that portion. Okay. Opinion on Isle Royal and worth the boat ride? Probably. I think it is worth it. I like the park. Now, I'll be honest. I don't think the scenery there is that impressive. I like the rocky coastline, but when you go into the island, it's forest, and while I like it, it's not the best. Some people immediately assume that's because I'm not a true backpacker, but honestly, I just don't think it's as impressive as other parks in terms of scenery outside of the wonderful Stoll Trail. Okay. So, if I consider making a ranking video on other national park units, I've done videos on my favorite national parks sites outside of the main 63, but I don't think I'm going to do a lot more on that. All right. Do I believe every state should have one park? Not sure about Delaware. There are a couple that I don't think really need them, but overall, yeah. So I've not been to Bandelier National Monument, but it seems like a great one for sure. So people do want to see that new video. So in a minute after I get through some of these, I think I might do that. All right, any species I've always wanted to see but eluded me so far? I would have said wolf before going to Lake Clark. I'd never seen, but I have to think. Is there any major animal in national park that I think about that I haven't seen? Yeah, I'm not sure. I've seen a lot of the major ones that I would want to. I've seen red foxes, which I want to see. I've seen my favorite bison. I love bison, honestly. Let me see. I even saw banana slug in Olympic. That was pretty lucky. So I'm not sure if there's really one that stands out in particular. So let's see what else is in here. If I could replace Gateway Arch with any in Missouri, something in the Ozarks for sure. All right. St. Mary area is scenic. Yeah, now I'm jealous that I haven't gotten there and you get there. Would I go to American Samoa? Yes. Have I gone to Dry Tortugas? How was the snorkeling? I've been to Dry Tortugas, and its snorkeling is some of my favorite. It's easily the best snorkeling in Florida. The coaling docks are unique. You'll see unique wildlife like turtles, barracudas. I think it's wonderful. Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, or Bryce Canyon? Probably Bryce, but overall, Yellowstone's a better park for me. All right. Which mountain in Hawaii is better, Mauna Kea or Haleakala? Ooh, very tough. I think you might get a little more enjoyment out of Haleakala, probably. All right, a park that needs NPS status, national park status, is Columbia River Gorge. Yes, it is wonderful. Multnomah is excellent, though I think one issue with that is that I hear something about it being much more of a tourist destination now. And if it's already started like that, I can see where they wouldn't turn it into a park. And also the fact that it is in the state that already has one. And they seem to be stingy about that for the most part. Would I consider becoming a ranger? Probably would consider it. Have I been to Tall Grass Prairie? I have not, but the Great Plains is nice. Any national park related goals I currently have? Well, I guess getting to all 63 is kind of a goal now. It really wasn't for a long time. I was just going to the parks because I enjoyed going to them and not because I wanted to say I'd been to them all. Favorite TV show? Planet Earth, if that counts as a TV show, is pretty much the best. Would I recommend Anacapa or Santa Cruz? Santa Cruz. There's more hiking. There is more water activities. I think you have a better chance of seeing the foxes. Anacapa is just a bit smaller. I traveled to Multnomah is the only thing. Yeah, I guess so. And there is crime. Yeah, that was one thing I was kind of alluding to. So, since everyone does want to know what the new video is about, maybe you'll have information that you can give that'll help. So, I'm making a video about Zion and how it grew in popularity because honestly, I was thinking about the Mighty Five ad. I'm not sure how many have seen that. Actually, I might put that to a poll. So, Zion National Park, it's the second most visited park as of 2021, which is honestly crazy to me. Um, yeah, the Mighty Five ad was for the Utah parks, and Zion is now insanely popular. Made 5 million visitors, biggest year ever for it, and it's small. So, all right, would I consider revisiting Great Smoky Mountains? We got our low ranking, but moved from across the country to work there. So, I would love to go back. And the low ranking, I know everyone hates me for that. Great Smoky Mountains has so many fans, but it's just very. It was just not my favorite experience. The scenery is nice, and on its own, it would rank higher than it did. But man, I did have to deal with a lot for saying Great Smoky Mountains was 57, even though I didn't really say anything bad about it. So I would definitely consider going back. How many countries have I gone to with national parks? I think most nations I've gone to have them, but for ones I've gone to national parks in, US, Canada, Australia, Iceland, Ecuador. That's probably it. 5. All right, so no one's seen the Mighty Five ad. It was actually excellent ad. I don't know if it can still be found, but on that note, I got to save that link. Because actually, it's very interesting that the Mighty Five ad pretty much single-handedly boosted the Utah National Park's tourism. Capitol Reef doubled in visitation as a result. All right. Yeah, that's it. But honestly, very, very good commercial overall. And I can see why it got a lot of people to visit the parks, including me. Actually, I don't think I knew a whole lot about Zion even before I went to those. All right. What else do we have? Great Smoky Mountains is nice, but overrated when Western U.S. exists. That's kind of how I feel. All right. If I do Great Smokies again, take the long trail that goes into the village and lodge on top of a mountain. Good advice. I'll definitely do a lot of it. All right. All right. Chase Ferguson, add 2 R's in overrated, and that will fix your problem. All right. Have I ever camped at a park? Yes, quite a few. My favorite campground is Cottonwood in Theodore Roosevelt. Oh yeah, Mighty Five is on YouTube. Yeah, the original video posted by the state of Utah had like 1 million views, and it's unlisted now. I guess they're actually trying to push people out of the park a little because Zion has so many visitors now, and they want people to see more than just the 5 parks now. All right, any more questions at the moment? But I will say the one thing I do like answering all these questions about the park specifically, but if you have any question about the channel and videos, like what my favorite video I've made is and things like that, you can feel free, but continue asking any question that you have, unless the chat is just like behind on my computer. How often do I post? I try to post weekly. I try to do every Sunday at noon Eastern. What grade am I in? I am a high school senior. I think there was a time I was posting more often than a week, and then quite a bit of time where I was not posting as often because I have just other things that have distracted from it. Have I visited all 50 states? Yes, I have. All right. What's something you missed out seeing in a park that would make you go back? Pretty much the entirety of the backcountry in North Cascades. Coolest plant I've seen in a national park. I think it's hard to beat sequoia trees. When did I start the channel? Just over 2 years ago. I was on a hike in Grand Teton, just thought of the idea of making it because of how many national parks I had traveled to and how I enjoyed doing that sort of thing. What video took the longest to make? Both of my national park rankings are probably the ones that took the longest to make. They took a lot of time to record and a lot of time to put together. Do I prefer national parks or amusement parks? I would say national parks. Thank you, Spinlock. The one thing I can say, I do enjoy amusement parks actually, because I do actually have another channel called Theme Park Avenue. All right, what hikes do I suggest in Jasper? So if you can hike on the, I believe it was the Columbia Ice Field was the name. That's a great one. At the Basket Falls. No, Harvey. There are quite a few good trails in Jasper though. Because I went in winter, there weren't a ton. Have I done Road to Hannah? Yes, I have. It's pretty nice, but for the most part, you don't get sweeping overlooks of things. There was one part, I think it was on Road to Hannah. There's a lighthouse that was very enjoyable. Best hikes and things to do in Shenandoah. I recommend hikes such as Old Rag and Bear Fence Mountain. Skyline Drive is definitely excellent to do. It's the main thing the park is known for. And Dark Hollow Falls is pretty good as well. Single best view I've ever seen. Denali on a clear day. Unrivaled. Nothing is quite as stunning as that for me. Best parks to camp in. Nothing for me beats Theodore Roosevelt. The wilderness feel of it, it's hard to beat. Others would definitely be Channel Islands, Isle Royal, and there's plenty that are great to camp at. In Yosemite Valley is great too, even. Like Yosemite, I would say is an excellent one to camp at. Which unit of Theodore Roosevelt is better? I would say the South. There's more driving, more hiking, and I prefer that one for wildlife history. North unit is more of the same, but not quite as much to it. So if you can only do one, I would definitely say do South. Did I do any hiking in Denali? Yes. So I've done Savage River, I've done the Horseshoe Lake hike, and I've also done Thoroughfare Ridge over at the main Denali Park. Was Mesa Verde good? Very. It's really not just history like some people say. There's a lot of wonderful scenery there. Best unit of Saguaro. I preferred the West unit, it had more cacti, but East unit had a bit more wildlife, I think. I mentioned earlier I haven't done much backpacking. Do you think I'll do that more someday? Maybe. I do think I would like to do more, get deeper into the parks. Many times I just don't have enough time to dedicate to that sort of thing. Did I ever see anyone polluting the environment or vandalizing in parks? I've seen people feeding wildlife, sometimes feeding them trash, and I'm not joking with that. So that's the closest I've gotten to seeing that. I've seen the result of vandalism, but I've never seen it actually taking place. How often do I travel? Really depends, actually, because I just tend to go when there are breaks from school. Like summer vacation is the main time I travel, but also spring break. And there are times when I will travel on weekends just to try to get to places. Like I went to Wind Cave, for example, and Devil's Tower, Mount Rushmore for the first time, all on just a Saturday after school because flights were pretty cheap, actually, is when we went, and that's just how it worked out. Would I go to Costa Rica national parks? I've been to Costa Rica before, and I have to think if I've been to a national park there. I've been to Monteverde Cloud Forest, if that's one. I don't remember for sure because this was actually quite a long time ago, but breathtaking, and I would go. Favorite of Petrified Forest National Park? Um, Blue Mesa was the most impressive hike, and I liked that a lot. Do I purchase any sort of items or member perks? Yes, I often will get magnets in national parks, and I'm wearing a Grand Teton shirt right now, so I do sometimes. Do I have siblings? Yes, I have 3 younger siblings. All right, sorry that it became awkward silence for a minute there. But if I will say, if anyone is all right, do they all enjoy the parks too? They enjoy them. Some of them are very young, so they still just won't want to go on long hikes. All right, do I ski or snowboard? Nah, I've tried skiing before. I'm very bad at it. I tried it in Jasper area actually, which was nice, but I did not do it. What will be the biggest change I make to the National Park Service? There isn't much that needs to be changed, but honestly, there's a change I would prevent, and that is the sort of development of certain parks. I know they want to appeal to the casual audience more, but I kind of wish they were not making large cafeterias and restaurant type things in places like Yellowstone. That would probably actually be something I would take out, like tear down if I could, because it doesn't hurt the park per se, but it's just something that does bother a little bit. So what else? Were sequoia trees cool? Yes, sequoias are massive, and you know how you have General Grant and General Sherman. I definitely love those, but actually, I think the mountain parts of those parks are more impressive than the trees, in my personal opinion, anyway. So who else are sequoias or redwoods? I would say sequoias are more interesting to me for just their size. I love honestly vast and massive pieces of nature. I enjoy intricate ones, but I prefer. All right, Sequoia or Redwood. A few people are saying that, so why don't we put that to a vote? And by the way, we're talking about the trees, not the national park. Okay, let's see. Um, Best mountain national park. So Yellowstone has mountains and is my favorite, but I would say Denali for parks that really are predominantly mountain. All right, where do I recommend getting camping or backpacking gear? Honestly, Walmart works fine. It's fairly affordable, and you will be able to find most of the things you need. Best urban park I've been to, there's one called Parque del Retiro in Madrid, Spain. That is a breathtaking one. Has a lot of nature to it, but it's great. And yes, Redwood does not have mountains, but I don't think I said anything about it having it. All right. Ever been to Wilderness Lodge at Disney World? I have not. It sounds nice, and I think it's themed to Old Faithful Inn, like designed similarly. But no, I have not been to most of Disney World actually. Opinion on REI? I don't know much about that. I may have heard the name, but they're not in my area. Have I been to the middle of Nevada? Yes, because I had to get from Las Vegas to Great Basin. All right, is Mount Rushmore a park? That is a national memorial, so not a national park. All right, revisiting North Cascades is a must, I'm sure. Favorite breakfast food? I think it is hard to beat cinnamon toast crunch, honestly. But what I normally eat for breakfast, honestly, is like bananas. Like cinnamon toast crunch is like a rarity. It's like a once in a while special treat type thing. So, any more questions? Coming up on an hour in this, so we might stop fairly soon. Don't eat breakfast. Well, this is slowing down a little bit. All right, I see Sequoias are winning the poll. Decent amount of votes. Just got on. All right, Utah or Colorado parks. Oh, you've put me in a tough spot. I lean toward Utah though. I mean, Zion, Bryce Canyon, Canyonlands, and Arches are excellent. Capitol Reef I've not seen much of, but yeah, that's a very good one. All right, so favorite state park. I'm thinking maybe Custer. I've seen a few state parks. Like I like Florida Caverns, but I haven't been to as many state parks as I have national and even the national sites. All right, Washington or California parks. That's definitely going to California. Quantity and quality. Utah or Washington. I lean toward Utah. Have I been to Palo Duro Canyon? No. How about Superior become a national park? Good idea. Alaska or California? All right, those are the two best states. I lean toward Alaska though, for that insane top parks. Utah or California? That would be California. All right. Anything else? So I'm going to end the poll. Worst Alaska park, Kobuk Valley. It doesn't have the mountain scenery of the rest of them that I love, but it's still good. Do I have Twitch? I do not. I don't know if I should get Twitch. Why do I think New York doesn't have a national park? It has so many state parks. I feel like I don't know, maybe New York City plays a role in it, but I don't really know why it doesn't have one. It all just depends on what they decide to make a national park. How many days you spend at Yellowstone and Grand Teton? 7 days enough? Yes, 7 days are enough. How long should a visit be to a park? You know what? A lot will say you have to spend a week in a park at least to truly understand the experience, but if you're short on time and you can enjoy the park, it's not how much time you spend, it's what you make of it. So I would say a day in a park is enough to enjoy many of them. Some are really large, and I would absolutely recommend more if you can. But a visit to a park, it probably should be 2, 3 days, but one is fine. All right. US versus Australia scenery. US by a little bit, but Australia does have a lot of the things that make the US wonderful. How would I rank the Colorado parks? I've done a video on this, but it would go Mesa Verde at the bottom, then Great Sand Dunes, and then Black Canyon at the Gunnison, and Rocky Mountain at the top. So what else we got? Would I do the entire Appalachian Trail? Maybe one day in the far future. All right. You're going to Big Bend. Okay. So Wally DK. Lost Mine Trail is one of the absolute most wonderful hikes I've ever done. I also highly recommend Balanced Rock, Santa Elena Canyon, Boquillas Canyon, the Panther Path over at the Visitor Center, and a lot of the other hikes in the Chisos Mountains are great if you can. Most overrated park, based on my experience, Great Smoky Mountains, but I didn't have a good experience there. But because it's so popular, and a lot of people tell me it's the most visited park for a reason, well, I must say, I know there are reasons more than just people like it. It's in the East US, and it's the ultimate affordable vacation. So, of course, a lot of people are going to go there. How would I rank the Utah parks? Capitol Reef's at the bottom for seeing the least of it. Number 4 is Arches, but it's barely behind the others. Number 3 is Canyonlands. Number 2 is Bryce Canyon, and number 1 is definitely Zion. Thoughts on the American chestnut tree gone? I did not know about that. Oh, you're going to Yellowstone soon. What do you prioritize? Well, I would definitely say the most important things are Lamar Valley, Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, Grand Prismatic Spring, Old Faithful, hikes like Mount Washburn if you can, maybe even Bunsen Peak is a lesser known one but very nice. Hayden Valley for sure, Yellowstone Lake, West Thumb Geyser Basin. There's quite a few. Saguaro or Petrified Forest. I lean towards Saguaro because while the scenery is not as impressive, the wildlife definitely is more impressive. And overall, I just like Saguaro more. So we're coming up on an hour. Oh, Lamar Valley's closed, right, because of the unfortunate natural disaster that happened at Yellowstone. I was just naming the best things to do, but if you're going soon, I guess there are certain things you can't. If I could develop a field trip for kids in a national park, what would the topic be? So if you mean which park it would be, a field trip to Yellowstone seems like one that I would absolutely want to do. How long on average have I stayed in each park? because of certain ones being longer times, I say I probably spend an average of 2 to 2.5 days in a park. And for pretty much all of them, I feel I have a great experience. Ever watched the Ken Burns National Park documentary? Yes, I actually own that one, and I had that. I was like 4 years old when I first watched it. I honestly love watching those national park documentaries, except for this one. Yeah, well, I think it was called like National Parks Adventure. I gotta quickly look that one up, and I don't know how many of you have seen that one. Yeah, I did not like national parks. All right, how many did you spend at Denali? Best time to go there. Okay, July is the best if you want to see Denali on a clear day. And how many days? Two. One for the bus tour and the hikes over there, and then one for the hikes in the main area. If you stay at Wonder Lake, maybe change that to three. So one creeping. So I'm wondering if you all have seen National Parks Adventure because I don't think it's a very good. All right, do I believe in Bigfoot? Not really. Haven't thought about it much. If I could give Kansas and Nebraska a park, what would it be? Tallgrass Prairie for sure, and then Nebraska probably Chimney Rock. What's the longest distance I've traveled for a park? I think the furthest is probably Haleakala. How do I prepare for routines for national parks? If you mean like how do I prepare like a trip and all, I have an excellent book, which by the way I recommend all of you read if you want to learn about national parks. If I can find it, if you're interested in that. I don't have the most recent edition that added a couple of the new ones, like Gateway Arch. Honestly, the book's pretty old now. I've had it for a while, and I got it on eBay. But it's Your Guide to the National Parks by Michael Joseph Oswald. Fantastic. The book, honestly, is part of the reason why I travel to national parks. Okay, so what else for questions? If I could stay in any park for an entire week, what would I choose? Because of what I've seen and what I still want to see, North Cascades. Did I have any bad experiences with mosquitoes in Alaska parks? No, actually. I hear really bad things about the mosquitoes there, but I've never really had the issue, even though I do go in July when I go. If I could make a state park a national park, what would I? Oh, make a state, like a whole state, a national park? Is that what you're asking, Doppler? Our best national forest, Tongass and Alaska, hands down. Also, San Juan and Dixie are great. San Juan is in Colorado and Dixie is in Utah. But Tongass in Alaska is breathtaking. Okay, one state, a national park, Alaska. I know there are obviously some developed areas that you wouldn't want to be a park, but I think there's much more in most other states. But Alaska National Park would be the greatest thing ever. Because honestly, there's a lot of beautiful national park stuff in Alaska that could be national park status but isn't protected. If I were forced to be in a national park for 1 year, what would I choose? Yellowstone. There's enough to do there. I think I would never get bored after a year. Best part of the Grand Canyon? Inner Canyon hike. If you go to the Grand Canyon and you only stay at the top, I must say, actually, it's really like you are actually missing out more than any other national park because I used to be that person. I would stay just at the top of the canyon, wouldn't go down, but it's at its best when you can go closer to the river, see the unique perspective of the rock as you go down. It's the best part for sure. Gunnison or Great Sand Dunes? Gunnison, Black Canyon, the Gunnison's a bit better. All right, thank you for that, Ali Bell. Ever watched the Grizzly Man documentary? I have not. Best and worst dune national parks. Best is Great Sand Dunes, worst is Indiana Dunes. I'm very set on that. Wait, Death Valley is technically a dune park because it has dunes in it. That would be about Great Sand Dunes. But if you mean ones primarily focused on sand dunes only, I would say Great Sand Dunes best, Indiana Dunes worst. Wait, what's the wrong answer? What permits have been hardest to get? We tried to get permit for Yosemite in 2020 when they had limited access. That was the toughest. Do I watch National Geographic? Yes. All right, so we're coming up at over an hour. So, all right, best part of Indiana Dunes. The coast, just the coastal areas, the main beach, looking at the Chicago skyline. Have I been to Santa Monica Mountain? I've spent limited time going through that area, but it is a very unique type of mountain scenery for sure. So, any last couple questions you can put in, but I am going to end the stream in the next 3 minutes or so. And make sure to stay tuned for tomorrow's video and week after. So next Sunday, I'll probably have the Zion National Park video out. Best National Lake Shore. Oh, I haven't done a lot of lake shores, though I do really want to see picture rocks. But best seashore is Point Reyes. All right. Stuck in a single national park. Live, eat, and breathe there. What is it? Gateway Arch sounds like the easiest one to survive in. Harvey Walter, I was saying Point Reyes is the best seashore, but I haven't been to a lot of lake shores. Pictured rocks, I have though. When will I revisit North Cascades? Tanya, one day, I promise. But I don't have plans to go there for now. All right, thank you, Evan. And thank you, Ali. Thank you, Smarvin. All right, thank you, everyone. All right, final one. If there was a place in Indiana to replace Indiana Dunes, what would it be? Gee, I don't know a whole lot of Indiana scenery. But I'd have to think. There's probably some waterfall area. What was it? It's Cataract Falls, Indiana. Hang on, I gotta quickly look that one up. Yeah, Cataract Falls. What's cooler to see, bears or wolves? For me, wolves, because I don't see them as often. Best island park? Channel Islands probably would be my pick. Yeah. Real quick, best park in Midwest? Theodore Roosevelt National Park for sure. All right. Virgin Islands or American Samoa? Haven't been to American Samoa, so I got to go Virgin Islands for now. Have I been to a national wildlife refuge? I've been to a few. They tend to be less impressive, and there's something off about them, honestly. I don't know how to explain it. But overall, all right, so people have not seen that National Parks Adventure documentary, but yeah. Have I been to Puerto Rico? Yes, but I've not been to El Yunque. Some of my friends have, and I would love to go there. But okay. So I think that will be the end of this, unless like one very last one comes in. But thank you all for watching. Thank you for 5,000 subscribers. I appreciate all your support. And if you're not subscribed already, make sure you do so. And I think I'll see you next time. Wait, yes or no? Yes.